And now from CBS News in Washington, Bob Schieffer.
And good morning again. Senator McConnell is in the studio with us this morning. Good morning to you, Senator. Thank you for coming. Well, let's talk first about this thing with Tom Daschle, which kind of stunned people around here because he is one of the most popular people in Washington. It turns out, though, that he owed the IRS $140,000, apparently became aware of this last June, didn't pay up until January 2nd when he was getting ready for his confirmation hearings. Is this nomination in trouble?
Well, let me first say that Tom Daschle is very popular in the Senate. He's been a great public servant for a long time, and all of us know him very well, obviously. In terms of the situation that you described, the Senate Finance Committee is meeting tomorrow to go over this and to come up with recommendations for the rest of us, and I think I'm going to just wait until they give me their opinion. But it was a surprise. I just found out about it a few days, as I assume you did, and it is quite a surprise.
Well, obviously it's an embarrassment for the administration, but does it put senators, you, in a hard place?
Well, it does raise some questions about the vetting process. This is now the second time that we've had a similar incident, first with the nominee for Secretary of the Treasury and now with Senator Daschle. I think the administration ought to take a look at its vetting process.
All right, well, let's turn to the stimulus package, this enormous economic recovery package that did pass the House, but passed the House with not one Republican vote. Now it's in your lap in the Senate. Can this bill pass the Senate as it is now written, Senator?
I would doubt it. First of all, the Senate is a very different institution. The majority is not able to just kind of run roughshod over the minority in the Senate. The president indicated he wanted this to be a bipartisan proposal. I must say that surely privately he's embarrassed about the product that came out of the House. The only bipartisanship was the opposition to it, all of the Republicans and a number of Democrats. There's a lot of unease among Senate Democrats about this package as well. Now, what that obviously sets up is a situation where changes could be made. We're going to recommend, for example, you go right at the housing problem. We have a 4% mortgage proposal where credit-worthy home buyers could buy down their mortgages or save them on the average $5,600 a year. Let's fix housing first. That's what started all of this. And second, we think we ought to lower tax rates for medium and low-income people. Those two things alone we think would go right at the problem, rather than spending money on there's $600 million for new cars for federal employees in there and $150 million for honeybee insurance. This is nonsense.
Well, I mean, the auto industry sure needs some help. What's wrong with the government buying?
I doubt if the government buying $600 million worth of automobiles provide the kind of stimulus that we're talking about here, and we certainly don't need honeybee insurance. Look, this thing needs to be targeted right at the problem. If we're going to spend this enormous amount of money, you know, this is huge money. This is, someone said the other day that if you started the day Jesus Christ was born and spent $1 million every day since then, you still wouldn't have spent $1 trillion. Looking at it another way, it's more than we've spent on all of the wars since 9/11. This is a lot of money. If we're going to spend anywhere near this, Bob, we need to target it directly. It needs to be timely, temporary, and targeted.
If it came to it, would Republicans filibuster this bill if it was not to your liking?
Well, that term is thrown around a lot. In the Senate, it routinely takes 60 votes to do almost everything. It doesn't necessarily mean you're trying to slow a bill down, but a supermajority is required for virtually everything in the Senate, and certainly for something that's close to $1 trillion spending bill, it will.
Well, let's talk about some more things. Should it be a smaller package overall? We're talking about something, I don't think anybody really knows how much this is as it's now outlined, but between $800 and $850 billion. Should it be a smaller amount?
If it were, it would be good if it could be smaller and actually put lead on the target immediately. I mean, the whole idea here is to stimulate the economy immediately. And I think we can figure out how to do that. And I think we could do it more effectively with less money than spending $1 trillion, particularly if we're going to waste a significant percentage of it on things that, while they may be very worthwhile, aren't going to spend out until year 3 or year 4, or ought to be handled through the normal appropriations
What
process.
you talk about honeybees and 600 cars, and that's just a small part of it. What has to come out of this bill to give you to take a second look at it, at least?
Well, the president said he didn't think it ought to have earmarks in it. And, you know, earmarks are arguably fine in the normal appropriations process, but what does that have to do with stimulating the economy? We ought to go right at the housing problem and right at tax relief to put money in the hands of consumers who can spend it now. I think we need to exercise some discipline here, and I think it may be time, Bob, for the president to kind of get a hold of these Democrats in the Senate and House who have rather significant majorities and shake them a little bit and say, look, let's do this the right way.
So you want the president himself to get more involved?
I can't believe that the president isn't embarrassed about the products that have been produced so far.
Couldn't you pay a price, too, if this thing does go down? I mean, wouldn't Republicans be blamed when the economy is going down the tubes? I mean, that kind of thing didn't work very well for Herbert Hoover. I mean, he didn't want to do anything either.
No, he did a lot. He did a lot of the wrong things. But this is not about blame. This is about getting the economy moving. We don't have an election for 2 years. The question is, let's do it right. I think we can come together on a bipartisan basis and, you know, virtually everybody agrees we ought to do something. This is not a question of doing nothing versus doing this. Almost everybody agrees we need to do something. Let's do it timely, temporary, and targeted. Go right at the problem and do it on an overwhelming bipartisan basis. I think it can still be done.
You think it can still be done? Let me ask you about one other thing, and that is Judd Gregg, senator from New Hampshire, Republican. It looks like that Monday, President Obama is going to name him, if he'll accept the nomination, to be a member of his cabinet, Secretary of Commerce. How do you feel about that?
Well, first, it'd be a big loss for the Senate. He's one of our brightest, most capable members. The president certainly has an eye for talent. Senator Gregg has assured me that if this were to happen, it would not change the makeup of the Senate. In other words, whoever is appointed to replace him would caucus with Senate Republicans, so I think it would have no impact on the balance of power in the Senate.
Well, this Democratic governor in New Hampshire, but you're telling me that Senator Gregg assures you that the Democratic governor of New Hampshire would appoint someone who's either a Republican or an independent who would vote with the Republicans.
Senator Gregg has told me that if he were to take this appointment, it would not alter the makeup of the Senate in terms of the majority and the minority.
All right.
Thank you.
Senator, thanks so much for joining us. Hope to see you again. We'll be back with Senator Chuck Schumer in just 1 minute.